Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English in Moments. I'm Elena, your host, and today I want to address the thing that makes intermediate and advanced English learners more anxious than almost anything else. More anxious than grammar tests, more anxious than formal presentations, more anxious than job interviews in some cases. Small talk. The short, casual, apparently simple conversations that happen at the beginning of meetings, at parties, in elevators, at the coffee machine, in waiting rooms, on the bus, at networking events, and in every other ordinary social situation where two or more people find themselves in the same space and one of them has to say something first. I know what you're thinking. Surely small talk is the easy part. Surely it's the big, important conversations that are hard and the small ones that are simple. Here is the truth about small talk in English, and this truth surprises almost everyone. Small talk is not simple. It is not shallow. It is not a collection of meaningless phrases that you say while waiting for the real conversation to begin. Small talk is a skill, a sophisticated, culturally specific, remarkably nuanced skill. And it is a skill that native English speakers have been practicing, unconsciously, since childhood, which means they have had approximately 20 to 40 years more practice than you have. Small talk is the entrance, the door through which every relationship passes on its way to becoming something real. The doctor who makes you feel at ease before the difficult news. The colleague who becomes a friend because of a conversation at the coffee machine. The stranger at a party who becomes someone you know for the rest of your life, because one of you said something first and the other responded, and something opened. And equally, the meeting that starts badly because nobody knew how to warm the room. The networking event where you stood with your drink feeling invisible because you did not know how to begin. The chance encounter that passed without becoming anything because the words did not come. Today, we are learning the complete skill of small talk in English. Not a list of phrases, not a set of scripted openers. The complete skill, how to begin, how to sustain, how to deepen, how to exit, and how to follow up. Every stage, every situation, every kind of conversation that falls under the vast and important umbrella of small talk in English. 8 categories, 25 examples per category, 200 examples in total, with full explanation and context for every single one. And throughout, I will give you not just what to say, but why. The cultural logic behind English small talk that makes the difference between performing a script and actually connecting with another person. Say every example out loud after me, every single time. Because small talk only becomes natural when the words have been in your mouth, when they feel like yours rather than borrowed. Let us begin. Category 1, the opening. Starting a conversation with a stranger without it being terrible. This is the hardest moment. The first sentence, the one that has to come out of silence or near silence and land well enough that the other person responds rather than turns away. Native English speakers have a surprisingly small toolkit for this moment. And that is actually good news because it means there are clear, learnable patterns. Let us go through them. Example 1. Busy in here today, isn't it? This is not a question, despite sounding like one. In spoken English, the tag question, isn't it, at the end of an observation, is an invitation to agree and respond, not a genuine inquiry about busyness. The correct response is not a precise answer. It is agreement and possibly an addition. Example exchange. Busy in here today, isn't it? I know, I've been waiting 15 minutes just to get to the counter. What this does, it establishes shared experience. Both people are in the same situation. The remark names that shared situation and invites the other person to confirm they are in it too. Repeat. Busy in here today, isn't it? Example 2. Not the best day for it, is it? Used when the weather or circumstances are clearly not ideal. The vagueness of it is intentional. Both people know what it refers to from context. Example exchange. Not the best day for it, is it? No, I was not expecting rain at all. Completely caught me out. What this does, names a shared difficulty without complaining, which is a key distinction in English small talk. You are observing together, not complaining. Repeat. Not the best day for it, is it? Example 3. Have you been waiting long? Used at a bus stop, in a line, in a waiting room, anywhere that waiting is the shared activity. Simple, practical, and genuinely useful because the answer gives you something to work with. Example exchange. Have you been waiting long? About 20 minutes. I think there was an earlier one canceled. What this does opens a practical exchange that can stay practical or develop into something more personal depending on the response. Repeat. Have you been waiting long? Example 4. I love what they've done with this place. Used in a venue, restaurant, or space you are both in. An observation about the environment that invites the other person to share their reaction. Example exchange. I love what they've done with this place. Haven't you been before? It's changed completely in the last year. Worth coming back for. What this does creates an opportunity for the other person to share knowledge or experience, which immediately positions them as someone interesting and worth talking to. Repeat. I love what they've done with this place. Example 5. Are you here for the conference as well? Used at any event to establish shared context. The as well is crucial. It tells the other person you are in the same situation, which creates immediate common ground. Example exchange. Are you here for the conference as well? Yes, first one I've been to. You? Same, actually. How are you finding it so far? What this does, the how are you finding it so far follow-up is the key move. It turns a yes or no question into an open exchange. Repeat. Are you here for the conference as well? Example 6. Is this your first time here? A gentle, open question for any venue or event. Works in a gym, a club, a restaurant, an event, or anywhere else where familiarity with a place could be established. Example exchange. Is this your first time here? It is, yes. I've heard good things. It really lives up to them. I'd strongly recommend the... What this does creates immediate expertise differential. One person knows the place, the other doesn't, which gives the knowledgeable person a natural reason to talk and the newcomer a natural reason to listen and respond. Repeat. Is this your first time here? Example 7. Do you know if they're running late by any chance? Used in any situation involving a schedule, a meeting, a performance, a transport connection. The by any chance softens the question and makes it feel like a friendly inquiry rather than a complaint. Example exchange. Do you know if they're running late by any chance? Apparently, yes, about 10 minutes. Someone at the front said, "Ah, right, thanks. Better than I thought, actually." What this does transforms a practical question into a small exchange that ends on a positive note. Always a good start. Repeat. Do you know if they're running late by any chance? Example 8. I haven't tried this before. Have you? Used when you are both about to share an experience, a dish, a venue, an activity. The honest admission of inexperience is disarming and inviting. Example exchange. I haven't tried this before. Have you? Once, years ago. It was extraordinary. Now I'm really looking forward to it. What should I watch out for? What this does, the "what should I watch out for" positions the other person as the expert, which people generally enjoy. It creates the dynamic of one person learning from another. Repeat. I haven't tried this before. Have you? Example 9. You look like you know where you're going. Any chance you could point me toward the registration desk? Used at events and conferences. The compliment, "You look like you know where you're going," is small and warm. It says, I have noticed you, and I have a positive impression. Example exchange. You look like you know where you're going. Any chance you could point me toward the registration desk? Of course, I'm heading that way. Follow me. It's easier to show you than explain. What this does creates a mini journey together, which is one of the best possible starts to a conversation. Repeat. You look like you know where you're going. Example 10. I'm terrible with names. We have met before, haven't we? Used when you suspect you have met someone but cannot place them. The admission of being terrible with names is immediately sympathetic. Almost everyone relates to this. Example exchange. I'm terrible with names. We have met before, haven't we? Yes, at the Marsh event last year. I'm David. Of course, Elena. It's good to see you again. What this does rescues a potentially awkward moment and turns it into a warm reconnection. Repeat. I'm terrible with names. Example 11. What a line. The simplest possible observation about a shared situation. The power of this is its simplicity. Anyone can respond. There is no pressure, and the shared suffering creates instant solidarity. Example exchange. What a line. I know. I've been here since 1:15. Is it always like this? Only on Saturdays, apparently. What this does becomes a brief, cheerful exchange about shared experience and local knowledge. Repeat. What a line. Example 12. I couldn't help overhearing. Are you from? Used when you have caught an accent, a language, or a reference that tells you something about the other person. The I couldn't help overhearing is important. It acknowledges that you were listening without making it feel intrusive. Example exchange. I couldn't help overhearing. Are you from Australia? New Zealand, actually? Close. What brings you to London? What this does opens a geographical conversation that almost always has a story inside it. Repeat. I couldn't help overhearing. Example 13. Is that the new one? I've been wondering whether it's worth getting. Used when you notice someone with a book, device, product, or item you are curious about. Direct curiosity, expressed politely, is one of the most natural conversation openers. Example exchange. Is that the new one? I've been wondering whether it's worth getting. Yes, just started it. Very early to say, but the first 50 pages are impressive. That's promising. What made you pick it? What this does creates a conversation about taste, recommendation, and shared interest. Repeat. Is that the new one? I've been wondering whether it's worth getting. Example 14. This is my first time at one of these. Do you come often? Used at recurring events, club meetings, networking events, lectures, classes. The vulnerability of "this is my first time" is disarming, and "do you come often" invites the other person to be the more experienced guide. Example exchange. This is my first time at one of these. Do you come often? Every month for the last 2 years. It's worth sticking with. The first one is always the most daunting. Good to know. What should I expect? What this does creates the mentor-learner dynamic that makes the more experienced person feel valued and the newcomer feel welcomed. Repeat. This is my first time at one of these. Example 15. I didn't think it would be quite this cold. Did you? The "did you" tag is crucial. It invites agreement and signals that you expect a shared reaction. Weather openers are often dismissed as cliched, but they work because weather is genuinely universal. Example exchange. I didn't think it would be quite this cold. Did you? I really didn't. I left the house in completely the wrong coat. Same. I saw the forecast and apparently didn't believe it. What this does, the self-deprecating ending, apparently didn't believe it, is warm and funny in a small way. It makes you likable immediately. Repeat. I didn't think it would be quite this cold. Did you? Example 16. How do you know the host? The universal question at any social gathering. Simple, open, and guaranteed to produce a story. Example exchange. How do you know the host? We were at university together, about 15 years ago now. You? Work, actually. She's been a client for years, but we've never actually socialized before tonight. What this does establishes the social context and creates immediate material for further conversation. University days, working relationships, how long ago things happened. Repeat. How do you know the host? Example 17. Excuse me, is anyone sitting here? The simplest of all openers when you are about to sit near someone. It is practically necessary, and yet the brief exchange it creates can go anywhere. Example exchange. Excuse me, is anyone sitting here? No, please. Thank you. These places fill up so quickly, don't they? They do. I had to get here 20 minutes early to find a seat. What this does turns a practical question into a brief shared observation, which is the core mechanism of all small talk. Repeat. Excuse me, is anyone sitting here? Example 18. I keep meaning to try this place. Is the food as good as everyone says? Used in restaurants and cafes, the "I keep meaning to" is useful because it signals that you have heard good things, which is a compliment to the place and an invitation for the other person to share their experience. Example exchange. I keep meaning to try this place. Is the food as good as everyone says? Better, honestly. The lunch menu especially. That's good to hear. What are you having? What this does creates an immediate food conversation that can stay light or go deeper depending on both people's interest. Repeat. I keep meaning to try this place. Is the food as good as everyone says? Example 19. You seem to know everyone here. A light, affectionate observation that positions the other person as socially central, which is a compliment while being a question. Example exchange. You seem to know everyone here. I've been coming to this for years. It's a good crowd. I've only just started coming. Any recommendations? Where do I start? What this does positions the other person as the expert guide to the social world you are entering, which they will almost always enjoy. Repeat. You seem to know everyone here. Example 20. I always find these things slightly daunting. Do you? The honest admission of social nervousness is enormously powerful as an opener because it is so unexpected and so relatable. Most people feel slightly daunted by social situations, and almost nobody admits it. Example exchange. I always find these things slightly daunting. Do you? Honestly, yes. Even after all these years. I have a strategy though. Find one person to talk to properly rather than trying to talk to everyone. That's a good strategy. I'm glad I found you first then. What this does, the ending, I'm glad I found you first then, is warm, a little funny, and immediately creates warmth between two people who were strangers 30 seconds ago. Repeat. I always find these things slightly daunting. Do you? Example 21. That looks good. What is it? Used when someone near you has food, a drink, or something you are curious about. Direct, simple, and the honest curiosity in it is immediately likable. Example exchange. That looks good. What is it? It's the beet and feta salad. It's extraordinary. Try it if you haven't. You've convinced me. I was going to play it safe, but not anymore. What this does creates a brief, warm exchange about food that ends on a small joke. Not anymore, which immediately establishes the tone. Repeat. That looks good. What is it? Example 22. I've just arrived. Have I missed much? Used at any event where something has already been happening. The implicit admission that you are slightly behind creates sympathy and the other person becomes your briefer. Example exchange. I've just arrived. Have I missed much? The first speaker was excellent. Actually, I'll fill you in. That would be wonderful. Thank you. What this does creates a functional relationship immediately. One person is helping another, which is one of the fastest ways to begin a good conversation. Repeat. I've just arrived. Have I missed much? Example 23. I recognize your face, but I cannot place you. I'm sorry. The honest admission of partial recognition is far better than pretending certainty or avoidance. People respect honesty, especially about something as universal as not remembering faces. Example exchange. I recognize your face, but I cannot place you. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm terrible with faces too. I'm James. Elena. Did we meet at the Northfield event by any chance? That's it. Last November. What this does resolves the mystery warmly and creates a shared memory as the foundation for the conversation. Repeat. I recognize your face, but I cannot place you. Example 24. What a place this is. A simple, genuine appreciation of a venue or space. The brevity of it is the point. It is an opening note, not a full statement. It invites the other person to add their reaction. Example exchange. What a place this is, isn't it? I had no idea this building even existed until last week. Same. How did you find out about it? A friend sent me the invitation. I almost didn't come. What this does. I almost didn't come is one of the most useful small talk lines because it creates the pleasant awareness of narrowly avoided missing something good. Repeat. What a place this is. Example 25. Right. I should introduce myself. I'm Elena. Sometimes the cleanest thing is to simply take the initiative and name yourself. In many English-speaking cultures, this is slightly unusual. People often orbit each other for longer than necessary before introducing themselves, which makes doing it directly feel refreshingly confident. Example exchange. Right. I should introduce myself. I'm Elena. James. It's good to meet you properly. I've seen you at a couple of these now, but we've never actually spoken. What this does, acknowledges a previous shared presence and suggests that this conversation is something they both wanted to happen. Repeat. Right. I should introduce myself. I'm Elena. 25 openers, and I want to say something before we move on. Did you notice what almost all of these have in common? They observe something shared. They invite agreement. They position the other person as interesting or knowledgeable or worth talking to. And they leave space for the other person to respond rather than closing down with a statement that requires nothing back. That is the architecture of a good opening. Keep it in mind. Let us continue. Category 2. The weather. Yes, really, done properly, because it is an art form. You have heard that English people talk about the weather, and you may have thought that this was a stereotype or a limitation. It is neither. The relationship with weather as a conversational subject is a sophisticated cultural phenomenon that deserves to be understood properly. Weather is the universal shared experience. It is happening to everyone simultaneously, regardless of age, profession, class, politics, or any other dividing factor. It is the one thing no one can be wrong about because it is visibly, demonstrably, undeniably present. And in the hands of a skilled conversationalist, a weather observation is never really about the weather at all. Example 26. Isn't it glorious today? Not a question. A shared celebration. The word glorious is a classic English weather word. It implies that good weather is so unusual it deserves an elevated term. Example exchange. Isn't it glorious today? Absolutely. I almost didn't want to come inside at all this morning. I know exactly what you mean. I sat in the garden with my coffee for twice as long as I should have. What this does, moves from weather to the particular private pleasure it created, which is already something more personal than the weather itself. Repeat. Isn't it glorious today? Example 27. Did you manage to get out in it at all? Used when the weather has been particularly good. Get out in it is a very natural English expression for going outside to enjoy good weather. Example exchange. Did you manage to get out in it at all? Briefly at lunchtime. It was worth every minute. Good. I ended up working through, but I could see it from my window, which was either lovely or torture, depending on how you look at it. What this does. The self-deprecating ending creates warmth and humor immediately. Repeat. Did you manage to get out in it at all? Example 28. I wasn't dressed for this at all. Used on a day when the weather has surprised you. Hotter, colder, or wetter than expected. The admission of being caught out is always sympathetic. Example exchange. I wasn't dressed for this at all. Neither was I. I saw the forecast this morning and apparently decided not to believe it. Same. The sky looked promising and I convinced myself. Repeat. I wasn't dressed for this at all. Example 29. It's that odd in-between weather, isn't it? Not quite warm enough to leave your coat, but too warm to keep it on. The specific observation about ambiguous weather. This is more sophisticated because it names a precise experience rather than making a general remark. Example exchange. It's that odd in-between weather, isn't it? Not quite warm enough without a coat, but too warm with one. Exactly that. I've been carrying mine since 9:30, and it's been more of a burden than a help. Repeat. It's that odd in-between weather, isn't it? Example 30. They keep saying it's going to clear up. Used when bad weather persists despite forecasts of improvement. The "they" refers to weather forecasters. The mild skepticism about their reliability is a very classic conversational note. Example exchange. They keep saying it's going to clear up. I've heard that 3 days in a row. At some point, you have to wonder if they're just trying to keep our spirits up. I think that's exactly what's happening. Repeat. They keep saying it's going to clear up. Example 31. It's the kind of day that makes you want to stay in with something warm. A descriptive observation that creates an atmospheric image and often invites the other person to add their version of that ideal. Example exchange. It's the kind of day that makes you want to stay in with something warm. Absolutely. I have been thinking about a particular soup since about 10 o'clock. Now I want soup. What kind? What this does. The unexpected turn to a specific food conversation from a weather observation is a small delight and demonstrates how weather talk is a gateway, not a destination. Repeat. It's the kind of day that makes you want to stay in with something warm. Example 32. I actually love days like this. Used on a day that many people find unpleasant. Cold, gray, rainy. The contrarian position is always interesting and invites the other person to agree, disagree, or inquire further. Example exchange. I actually love days like this. Do you? I find gray days quite hard. I grew up in the north. This feels like home. I grew up by the sea, so I need light, I think. What this does. Moves from weather to geography to upbringing in 3 exchanges. The weather was only the door. Repeat. I actually love days like this. Example 33. How was it where you were this weekend? We had absolutely everything. Used when weather has been variable and you want to compare experiences across different locations. Example exchange. How was it where you were this weekend? We had absolutely everything. Sun in the morning and then a storm at 2. We got caught in it. Oh no, were you outside? On a boat. I don't recommend it. Repeat. How was it where you were this weekend? Example 34. The evenings are really drawing in now, aren't they? Used in fall when daylight becomes noticeably shorter. The evenings are drawing in is one of the most quintessentially English seasonal observations. Example exchange. The evenings are really drawing in now, aren't they? I know. It was dark by 5 yesterday, and I nearly didn't believe it. Every year it surprises me. You'd think I'd be used to it by now. Repeat. The evenings are really drawing in now, aren't they? Example 35. I think this is my favorite time of year, actually. A personal opinion about a season, which immediately invites the other person to share theirs. Example exchange. I think this is my favorite time of year, actually. Really? What do you like about it? The light, mainly. The way everything goes gold in the afternoon. I'd have said spring for me. The feeling that things are starting. What this does. A simple seasonal preference has become a conversation about how different people experience the world. Still technically about weather, not really about weather at all. Repeat. I think this is my favorite time of year, actually. Example 36. At least it's not as bad as last year. Used to put current weather in perspective by referencing a shared worse experience. The natural fondness for comparative moderation, at least it's not as bad, is culturally specific and worth learning. Example exchange. At least it's not as bad as last year. Oh, last year was something else entirely. I remember having to dig my car out. Same. Never again, I thought. And yet here I am, not having done anything different. Repeat. At least it's not as bad as last year. Example 37. Did the storm wake you? Used after notable weather events, storms, heavy rain, high winds that may have disturbed sleep. This assumes a shared experience and is immediately personal. Example exchange. Did the storm wake you? 3 times. I couldn't believe how loud it was. I gave up at 5:30 and just got up. Was it bad near you? A tree down in the park, apparently. Repeat. Did the storm wake you? Example 38. I've been watching the forecast obsessively this week. Used when planning something weather dependent, an outdoor event, a journey, a holiday. The confession of obsessive forecast checking is universally sympathetic. Example exchange. I've been watching the forecast obsessively this week. What's coming up? We have an outdoor wedding on Saturday. Oh, that's stressful. What does it say? It changes every time I look. Repeat. I've been watching the forecast obsessively this week. Example 39. The light is extraordinary at this time of year. A more appreciative and slightly elevated weather observation about the quality of seasonal light. Used in fall and winter when the sun is low. Shows sensitivity and invites agreement from those who share it. Example exchange. The light is extraordinary at this time of year, isn't it? I took the long way home yesterday just to be in it. I do that too. It feels almost wasteful to miss it. Repeat. The light is extraordinary at this time of year. Example 40. I could do with a bit more of this, honestly. Used when unusually good weather has appeared. The understatement a bit more, rather than a lot more, is characteristically understated. Example exchange. I could do with a bit more of this, honestly. Who couldn't? Have you got anything nice planned if it holds? We might try the garden this weekend for the first time. Optimistic, good. Repeat. I could do with a bit more of this, honestly. Example 41. Is it me, or has this winter felt particularly long? The subjective observation invites the other person to agree or disagree and to share their experience of the season. Example exchange. Is it me, or has this winter felt particularly long? Not just you. I said the same thing to my partner last week. I think it's because it started early, or because we didn't get a proper summer before it. Repeat. Is it me, or has this winter felt particularly long? Example 42. You can smell the rain coming, can't you? A sensory and quite poetic weather observation. The particular smell before rain, petrichor, is one that almost everyone recognizes and very few name. The observation itself says you are someone who pays attention. Example exchange. You can smell the rain coming, can't you? I noticed that walking in. We've got about 20 minutes, I'd say. Just enough time if we're quick. Shall we? Repeat. You can smell the rain coming, can't you? Example 43. I've completely given up trying to dress appropriately for this city. Said with good humor by someone who has accepted the unpredictability of the weather. Works especially well from someone who has moved here from elsewhere. Example exchange. I've completely given up trying to dress appropriately for this city. How long have you been here? 4 years. I still get it wrong every week. I've been here 40 years, and I get it wrong every week. Don't let it discourage you. Repeat. I've completely given up trying to dress appropriately for this city. Example 44. Right weather for it. A short, versatile comment used when the weather matches the activity. Rainy weather for staying in. Cold weather for soup. Bright weather for a walk. The brevity is part of the charm. Example exchange. Right weather for it. Exactly what I thought. I nearly canceled, but I'm glad I didn't. It wouldn't have been the same in sunshine, would it? Not at all. This was the right day. Repeat. Right weather for it. Example 45. I know we shouldn't complain because it's been so mild, but the acknowledgement that complaining about mild weather is not entirely fair, followed by the inevitable complaint. The but is the whole point. This is very typical. The awareness of one's own irrationality combined with the inability to resist it. Example exchange. I know we shouldn't complain because it's been so mild, but I know. I said the same thing. We had an extraordinarily good fall, and I'm still finding this hard. At least we know we're unreasonable. Repeat. I know we shouldn't complain because it's been so mild, but... Example 46. This is the kind of morning that makes you glad to be alive. Said of a particularly beautiful morning. Crisp, bright, clear, golden. A genuine expression of appreciation that is elevated and invites the same from the other person. Example exchange. This is the kind of morning that makes you glad to be alive. It really is. I walk to work and I don't usually walk. Good decision. The best I've made this week. Repeat. This is the kind of morning that makes you glad to be alive. Example 47. 4 seasons in 1 day today. A common English expression for unpredictable weather that cycles through multiple types in a short period. Example exchange. 4 seasons in one day today. We had hail at lunch. Actual hail in April. In April. And then sunshine. And then, what, 3 degrees? About that. Extraordinary. Repeat. 4 seasons in one day today. Example 48. I always feel slightly guilty enjoying bad weather. A confessional small talk opener that acknowledges a contradictory pleasure. Enjoying rain, or cold, or gray days, while knowing you should prefer sunshine. Example exchange. I always feel slightly guilty enjoying bad weather. Why guilty? I don't know, as if I should want what everyone else wants. Perhaps it means you're more adaptable, or just contrary. Either works. Repeat. I always feel slightly guilty enjoying bad weather. Example 49. The forecast is completely useless. I've decided to just look out of the window. Said with warm exasperation about the unreliability of weather predictions. The decision to use primary observation rather than technology is slightly funny and very relatable. Example exchange. The forecast is completely useless. I've decided to just look out of the window. That's genuinely the best method. Apparently, I've been doing it for a week and I've been more accurate. We all have. Repeat. The forecast is completely useless. I've decided to just look out of the window. Example 50. What do you make of this weather? The most open of all weather openers. Invites an opinion without steering it. The answer tells you immediately what kind of conversationalist the other person is. Brief and factual, or expansive and imaginative. Example exchange. What do you make of this weather? Honestly, I love it. The gray suits me. I wasn't expecting that. Most people aren't. Tell me more. Repeat. What do you make of this weather? 50 examples done. 2 complete categories. And I hope by now you can see that weather small talk is not about the weather. It is about establishing a shared moment of experience and using that moment as the opening of something more. Let us continue. Category 3, the transition. Moving from surface to something more real. This is one of the most sophisticated skills in all of small talk. The ability to move a conversation from the pleasant but shallow surface level, weather, venue, logistics, down into something that actually matters, something personal, something that makes both people feel that this was not just a polite exchange, but a real encounter. The transition is where small talk either stays small or becomes something worth remembering. Example 51. Can I ask you something slightly more interesting? A direct, playful signal that you are ready to move beyond pleasantries. The word slightly is important. It is not pompous. It is light. Example exchange. Can I ask you something slightly more interesting? Please. What brought you to this particular field? What this does opens the biography of the person, their professional journey, their choices, their story. Repeat. Can I ask you something slightly more interesting? Example 52. How long have you been doing what you do? One of the most elegant transition questions, because the answer always contains a story. A beginning, a path, often a surprise. Example exchange. How long have you been doing what you do? 15 years in this area, though I started in something completely different. Did you? What made you change? Repeat. How long have you been doing what you do? Example 53. What do you actually enjoy about it? The word actually does the work here. It signals that you want the real answer, not the polished professional version. Example exchange. What do you actually enjoy about it? That's a good question. Nobody asks that. The honest answer is the problem solving. When everything else is frustrating, that part stays good. That says something about what you're built for. Repeat. What do you actually enjoy about it? Example 54. You mentioned you're from. What brought you to London? Using a detail the person has already mentioned to open a biographical question. This shows you have been listening, which is one of the most attractive qualities in a conversationalist. Example exchange. You mentioned you're from Edinburgh. What brought you to London? A job, initially. 15 years ago. The job ended, and I'm still here. London does that. It really does. Repeat. You mentioned, what brought you to? Example 55. Is it what you expected? A beautifully open question that works in almost any context. A new city, a new job, a new situation. The gap between expectation and reality is almost always interesting. Example exchange. Is it what you expected? In some ways, completely, and in others, nothing like. Which surprises you more? The ways it's different. The city is much lonelier than I imagined, and also warmer, both at once. Repeat. Is it what you expected? Example 56. What would you be doing if you weren't doing this? The hypothetical question is one of the most powerful transition tools in small talk. It moves the conversation from the factual present into imagination and desire. Example exchange. What would you be doing if you weren't doing this? I'd have kept playing music. I gave it up at 22 for something more sensible. Do you regret it? Sometimes, less than I used to. Repeat. What would you be doing if you weren't doing this? Example 57. What's keeping you busy outside of work these days? A gentle invitation to the personal life without being intrusive. These days suggests currency and change, which is more interesting than a general question. Example exchange. What's keeping you busy outside of work these days? I've just taken up sea swimming, which has either been the best or the worst decision I've ever made. I can't tell yet. That's quite a commitment. What made you start? Repeat. What's keeping you busy outside of work these days? Example 58. What's the best thing that's happened to you recently? A deliberately positive question that cuts through the usual surface level. People are rarely asked this directly and usually have an interesting answer ready. Example exchange. What's the best thing that's happened to you recently? That's a lovely question. My daughter started walking 3 days ago. Well, that does rather put everything else in perspective, doesn't it? Repeat. What's the best thing that's happened to you recently? Example 59. What are you working on at the moment that you're excited about? The combination of at the moment and excited about does something specific. It asks for the current and the personal simultaneously. Example exchange. What are you working on at the moment that you're excited about? Something I can't say much about yet, but it's the first thing in years that has kept me up at night in a good way. That's the best kind. Repeat. What are you working on at the moment that you're excited about? Example 60. I get the sense you've been doing this for a long time. An observation about the other person that invites them to confirm or correct and to tell you more about themselves. Example exchange. I get the sense you've been doing this for a long time. Is it that obvious? Nearly 20 years. It's become part of how I think. What does that feel like, to have something that integrated? I'm not sure I know any other way now. Repeat. I get the sense you've been doing this for a long time. Example 61. What part of all this do you find hardest? A question that assumes difficulty exists, which it always does, and gives the other person permission to be honest about it. Example exchange. What part of all this do you find hardest? The loneliness, actually. It surprised me. I thought it would be the pressure, but it's the isolation. That's an honest answer. You asked an honest question. Repeat. What part of all this do you find hardest? Example 62. You seem really at ease in this kind of environment. An observation that is also a compliment and an invitation. The other person can accept it, qualify it, or correct it, all of which are interesting. Example exchange. You seem really at ease in this kind of environment. I've had a lot of practice. I wasn't always. What changed? Realizing that most people in the room feel exactly the way I used to feel. It's oddly liberating. Repeat. You seem really at ease in this kind of environment. Example 63. What made you decide to come tonight? A question about intention and motivation that opens into the story of how they ended up here. Example exchange. What made you decide to come tonight? Honestly, I nearly didn't. My partner talked me into it. And I'm glad they did. This has already been worth it. Repeat. What made you decide to come tonight? Example 64. What's something you've changed your mind about in the last year? One of the most revealing transition questions available. How people describe changing their minds tells you everything about how they think. Example exchange. What's something you've changed your mind about in the last year? How much I need community. I was quite self-sufficient, I thought. The pandemic showed me that was at least partly wrong. I think a lot of us discovered that. Repeat. What's something you've changed your mind about in the last year? Example 65. I've been meaning to ask you since we were introduced. What is it exactly that you do? The I've been meaning to ask since we were introduced is a useful phrase because it suggests that you have been curious but politely waiting. It is a compliment dressed as a confession. Example exchange. I've been meaning to ask since we were introduced. What is it exactly that you do? That is the question I always struggle to answer concisely. Give me the long version. Are you sure? Completely. Repeat. I've been meaning to ask you since we were introduced. Example 66. Tell me something that isn't on your LinkedIn profile. Used in professional contexts with a light touch. The invitation to share something personal or unexpected breaks the professional format of networking events. Example exchange. Tell me something that isn't on your LinkedIn profile. I once wrote 3 chapters of a novel and then stopped. Why did you stop? I realized I was avoiding everything else, which probably means I should go back to it. It does, yes. Repeat. Tell me something that isn't on your LinkedIn profile. Example 67. I'm curious about you. What's your story? The directness of I'm curious about you is surprisingly rare, and therefore powerful. Most people are not asked this directly and respond with unexpected openness. Example exchange. I'm curious about you. What's your story? That's quite a big question. I have time. Where do I start? Wherever feels right. Repeat. I'm curious about you. What's your story? Example 68. You have a way of saying things that makes me want to know more. A compliment directed at the quality of someone's thought or expression rather than their appearance or profession. Rare and therefore memorable. Example exchange. You have a way of saying things that makes me want to know more. That's a kind thing to say. I mean it. The thing you said about the industry earlier, can we go back to that? Repeat. You have a way of saying things that makes me want to know more. Example 69. What's the thing that matters most to you right now? One of the deepest transition questions available. Direct, open, and almost always produces an honest answer, because people are rarely given the opportunity to say what currently matters most. Example exchange. What's the thing that matters most to you right now? My family. Everything else has become less important as I've got older. Has that surprised you? Yes, I thought it would be my work. Repeat. What's the thing that matters most to you right now? Example 70. What are you most looking forward to in the next few months? A forward-looking question that creates a positive emotional register and gives the other person something pleasant to talk about. Example exchange. What are you most looking forward to in the next few months? We're going to Japan for the first time. I've been planning it for 3 years. You must be so excited. What will you do first? I've made a list. It's quite long. I'd love to see it. Repeat. What are you most looking forward to in the next few months? Example 71. I find you interesting. Can I ask you a slightly more personal question? The directness of I find you interesting before asking permission for a personal question is disarming and respectful simultaneously. Example exchange. I find you interesting. Can I ask you a slightly more personal question? You can ask. I might not answer. Fair enough. What was the hardest year of your life, and what did it teach you? Repeat. I find you interesting. Can I ask you a slightly more personal question? Example 72. You said something earlier that I've been thinking about. Used to return to something said earlier in the conversation that deserves more attention. Showing that you have been listening and processing is one of the highest conversational compliments. Example exchange. You said something earlier that I've been thinking about. When you described the job as survival mode, what did you mean by that? More than I meant to say, probably, but now that you're asking, repeat. You said something earlier that I've been thinking about. Example 73. Can I be slightly honest with you? The signal that what follows will be more real than what has come before. Almost always welcomed, because the alternative is more of the same surface-level exchange. Example exchange. Can I be slightly honest with you? Please. I've been at 3 events this week, and this is the first conversation I've actually enjoyed. That's either a compliment or a fairly depressing observation. Both, I think. Repeat. Can I be slightly honest with you? Example 74. This has turned into a much better conversation than I expected. a genuine, warm acknowledgement that the conversation has exceeded the usual standards of small talk. Naming this creates a shared appreciation of what is happening between you. Example exchange. This has turned into a much better conversation than I expected. Hadn't we better find somewhere to sit then? Yes, I think we had. Repeat. This has turned into a much better conversation than I expected. Example 75. I feel like we could talk for a long time. One of the best things you can say to someone in a small talk context. It signals genuine interest and creates the conditions for the conversation to continue beyond the immediate social obligation. Example exchange. I feel like we could talk for a long time. I feel exactly the same. Should we find some food and not stop? Repeat. I feel like we could talk for a long time. 75 examples. 3 categories complete. The first category gave you the door. The second gave you the room to stand in. The third gave you the corridor that leads to somewhere real. Let us continue. Category 4, workplace small talk. What to say to someone you see every day but barely know. The colleague you pass in the corridor. The person who makes their coffee at the same time as you. The team member you have worked near for 2 years but somehow never really spoken to. These relationships are very common and are maintained almost entirely through the small talk of daily professional life. Getting this right matters enormously for the quality of your working life. Example 76. How was your weekend? The most universally used Monday morning opener in any English-speaking workplace. Simple and effective. The key is the follow-up once they have answered. Example exchange. How was your weekend? Quiet, mostly. I did manage to get outside on Sunday. You? Similar. I needed the rest after last week. Didn't we all? What this does, the didn't we all closes the exchange with shared understanding. Brief, warm, complete. Repeat. How was your weekend? Example 77. Are you surviving? Used midweek during particularly busy or difficult periods. The slightly dramatic word surviving is warm because it acknowledges the difficulty humorously. Example exchange. Are you surviving? Just about. You? I keep telling myself Friday is coming. Only 2 more days. 2 long days. True. Repeat. Are you surviving? Example 78. Is it me, or has this week been particularly relentless? Used when the pace of work has been unusually intense. The is it me, or invites commiseration without complaining. Example exchange. Is it me, or has this week been particularly relentless? Not just you. I haven't had a lunch break since Monday. Same. I think we need to talk to someone about that at some point. At some point after I've caught up, maybe. Repeat. Is it me, or has this week been particularly relentless? Example 79. I heard you've been working on something interesting. What's it about? Used when you have heard through colleagues that someone is on an interesting project. Showing awareness of what someone is working on is a form of professional attention. Example exchange. I heard you've been working on something interesting. What's it about? Who told you? Word gets around. Apparently, it's early days, but Would you have 5 minutes to talk about it properly? For this, yes. Repeat. I heard you've been working on something interesting. Example 80. How are you finding it since the changes? Used after organizational changes, restructures, or new processes. Open, sympathetic, and genuinely useful for understanding how a colleague is adjusting. Example exchange. How are you finding it since the changes? Mixed, honestly. Some of it's better. Some of it takes getting used to. Same. I think give it a month or a year. Let's say a month and reassess. Repeat. How are you finding it since the changes? Example 81. That was a good contribution in the meeting this morning. A professional compliment directed at something specific the person said or did. Specific compliments land much better than general ones. Example exchange. That was a really good contribution in this morning's meeting. The point about the timeline especially. Thank you. I wasn't sure it landed. It did. Everyone was thinking it. Repeat. That was a good contribution in the meeting this morning. Example 82. I've been meaning to ask you something for ages. Do you have a minute? The I've been meaning to ask signal creates anticipation and shows that this is not an impulsive question, but something that has been on your mind. Example exchange. I've been meaning to ask you something for ages. Do you have a minute? Of course. What do you actually think about the new system? Not the official answer. Ah, that might take more than a minute. Repeat. I've been meaning to ask you something for ages. Example 83. You look like you've had a long day. An observation that opens the door for someone to share if they want to. The person can say, not at all, or they can say, you have no idea, and get something off their chest. Example exchange. You look like you've had a long day. Is it that obvious? Just a little. I've had 5 meetings and none of them should have happened. I know, that kind of Tuesday. Repeat. You look like you've had a long day. Example 84. I'm making coffee. Can I get you one? The offer is the opener. The follow-up conversation happens over the making and handing over of the coffee. One of the most natural small talk structures in any workplace. Example exchange. I'm making coffee. Can I get you one? That would be wonderful. Black, please. How's your morning been? Better now, thank you. Repeat. I'm making coffee. Can I get you one? Example 85. Have you got 5 minutes at some point today? Not a small talk line exactly, but a conversation initiator that opens the possibility of a real exchange. The vagueness of at some point is considerate. It does not demand time immediately. Example exchange. Have you got 5 minutes at some point today? Of course. Now works if it's useful. Now would be perfect, actually. There's something I've been wanting to run by you. Repeat. Have you got 5 minutes at some point today? Example 86. I keep meaning to properly introduce myself. I'm Elena. We've been on the same floor for 6 months. The honest acknowledgement of delayed introduction is always well received. It names the slightly awkward reality of people who share space but have not formally met. Example exchange. I keep meaning to properly introduce myself. I'm Elena. We've been on the same floor for 6 months. I know. I'm David. I kept thinking someone would introduce us properly, and nobody did. And nobody did. Nice to finally meet you. Repeat. I keep meaning to properly introduce myself. Example 87. How long have you been with the company? A simple, respectful question that almost always produces an interesting career narrative. Example exchange. How long have you been with the company? 7 years. Feels both very short and very long depending on the day. Which kind of day is today? One of the longer feeling ones, but the good kind. Repeat. How long have you been with the company? Example 88. What did you make of the announcement? Used after any organizational news, a new initiative, a departure, a change of direction. Open and neutral. It invites an honest reaction. Example exchange. What did you make of the announcement? Cautiously interested. You? Same. I think the proof will be in how it actually gets implemented, as always with these things. Repeat. What did you make of the announcement? Example 89. I always see you in early. Do you find it easier to concentrate before everyone else arrives? An observation that is also a question. It shows attention and creates an opening for a conversation about work styles and preferences. Example exchange. I always see you in early. Do you find it easier to concentrate before everyone else arrives? Enormously. 2 hours before 9 is worth 4 hours later. I've tried it and I'm not sure I'm built for it. It takes a few weeks. After that, it becomes addictive. Repeat. I always see you in early. Example 90. Any plans for the weekend? The Friday afternoon opener. A simple, warm question that moves the conversation away from work and toward the person's life outside it. Example exchange. Any plans for the weekend? A long walk if the weather holds. You? We're trying a new restaurant on Saturday. First proper night out in months. That sounds good. Where? Somewhere in Soho. I'll tell you how it was on Monday. Repeat. Any plans for the weekend? Example 91. I owe you a coffee. Used after someone has helped you with something. The debt is small and pleasant, and the offer creates an immediate social plan. Example exchange. I owe you a coffee for the help with that report. You really don't. I insist. Tomorrow morning? Tomorrow morning works. Repeat. I owe you a coffee. Example 92. What do you do to switch off after a day like this? A genuinely curious question about someone's life that moves the conversation firmly away from work. Example exchange. What do you do to switch off after a day like this? Run, usually. Whatever the weather. About an hour. By the end of it, I've stopped thinking about everything here. That's impressive. I come home and keep checking my email. You need to work on that. I know I do. Repeat. What do you do to switch off after a day like this? Example 93. Have you been here long enough to remember how it was before? Used to invite a colleague to share institutional memory and context that you may not have. Example exchange. Have you been here long enough to remember how it was before the restructure? Just about. It was a very different place. In a good way or a bad way. Depends what you value. Some things were better. Some things are better now. It's complicated. Repeat. Have you been here long enough to remember how it was before? Example 94. You've been quieter than usual this week. Is everything all right? A careful, caring observation that gives a colleague permission to share if they want to, without pressure if they don't. Example exchange. You've been quieter than usual this week. Is everything all right? Is it noticeable? A little. You don't have to say anything. No. I appreciate you asking. It's been a difficult few days at home. I'm sorry. Let me know if there's anything I can do. Repeat. You've been quieter than usual this week. Example 95. That was a brilliant session. Used after a presentation, training, meeting, or event. Brief, warm, and specific enough to feel genuine. Example exchange. That was a brilliant session. I learned more in an hour than I have in weeks. That's very kind. The group was engaged, which helps enormously. You set the tone. Repeat. That was a brilliant session. Example 96. Can I get your honest opinion on something? The workplace equivalent of the personal, "Can I be slightly honest with you?" signals that you want real feedback, not polite reassurance. Example exchange. Can I get your honest opinion on something? Of course. The new proposal. Am I missing something, or does it have a problem in the middle section? I was wondering when someone was going to name that. Repeat. Can I get your honest opinion on something? Example 97. I've been looking for an excuse to talk to you properly for a while. Used with warm directness. It says that you have been aware of and interested in this person for some time, which is itself a compliment. Example exchange. I've been looking for an excuse to talk to you properly for a while. The coffee machine finally delivers. It does. What are you working on these days? Repeat. I've been looking for an excuse to talk to you properly for a while. Example 98. Lunch? One word. Possibly the most versatile and effective workplace small talk conversation starter available. When said to someone you know reasonably well, it opens an hour of real conversation. Example exchange. Lunch? Yes. Where? Somewhere that isn't my desk. I'll get my coat. Repeat. Lunch? Example 99. I keep forgetting to tell you. I read that book you recommended. Using a previous recommendation as a conversation opener shows that you listened and acted on something they said, which is one of the warmest things you can do in a professional relationship. Example exchange. I keep forgetting to tell you. I read that book you recommended. And you were absolutely right. I read it in 2 sittings. That's exactly how I read it. What got you? Repeat. I keep forgetting to tell you. I read that book you recommended. Example 100. Before we go into this meeting, how are you, actually? The workplace version of the transition, moving from the professional to the briefly personal before returning to the task. The word actually does the work. It signals that you want the real answer. Example exchange. Before we go into this meeting, how are you, actually? Honestly? A bit all over the place, but I'll be fine. Noted. Let me know if you need anything after. I will. Thank you. Repeat. Before we go into this meeting, how are you, actually? 100 examples. 4 categories complete. We are halfway through this masterclass, And you now have the tools for the beginning of a conversation: the weather as a gateway, the transition to something real, and the daily currency of workplace connection. Let us push into the second half. Category 5, the party. Finding your footing in a room where you know nobody. The party is the great test of small talk. A room full of strangers, each one holding a drink, each one navigating the same social challenge. Here are the sentences that make you feel like you belong in a room before you actually do. Example 101. I have to be honest, I don't know anyone here. Are you in the same position? The courageous and direct opener. Naming your social vulnerability in a room of strangers is almost always met with relief. Example exchange. I have to be honest, I don't know anyone here. Are you in the same position? Almost. I know the host and about one other person. Good enough. Shall we be strangers together for a while? Let's. Repeat. I have to be honest. I don't know anyone here. Example 102. You look like someone I should know. A light, warm observation. Not quite a compliment. Not quite a question. More of an invitation. Example exchange. You look like someone I should know. I probably look like someone who is wondering where they put their coat. That too. I'm Elena. James. Repeat. You look like someone I should know. Example 103. What's the story with the food? Have you tried anything? A practical and sociable opener that gives both people something concrete to talk about. Example exchange. What's the story with the food? Have you tried anything? The little pastry things are extraordinary. I've had 4. Point them out and I'll catch up. Follow me. Repeat. What's the story with the food? Have you tried anything? Example 104. I'm going to get another drink. Can I bring you anything? A generous offer that creates a social debt and an ongoing connection. The person who offers to bring drinks becomes immediately likable. Example exchange. I'm going to get another drink. Can I bring you anything? That's very kind. White wine if they have it. I'll be here when you get back. Hold that thought. I want to hear more about what you were saying. Repeat. I'm going to get another drink. Can I bring you anything? Example 105. I always end up standing next to the most interesting person in the room by accident. A warm and slightly playful compliment that assumes the person is interesting before they have proved it. Example exchange. I always end up standing next to the most interesting person in the room by accident. You clearly haven't talked to me for long enough to test that theory. Give me a chance. What do? Repeat. I always end up standing next to the most interesting person in the room by accident. Example 106. How do you know the host? The universal party opener. Works every time because everyone at the party has an answer. Example exchange. How do you know the host? University. About 12 years ago now. We've managed to stay close despite everything. That's rare. Very. How about you? Work. More recent. She's remarkable to work with. Repeat. How do you know the host? Example 107. I recognize that look. First time at one of these? Used at recurring events, regular dinners, club gatherings, annual parties. The observation that someone looks like a newcomer is not unkind. It is welcoming. Example exchange. I recognize that look. First time at one of these? Is it that obvious? Only because I had exactly the same look 3 years ago. How did you survive it? Found one person to talk to properly. You're welcome. Repeat. I recognize that look. First time at one of these? Example 108. Right. I need to know someone by the end of this evening. Would you like to be that person? One of the most direct and charming party openers available. The combination of directness and warmth is disarming. Example exchange. Right. I need to know someone by the end of this evening. Would you like to be that person? That is the most direct thing anyone has ever said to me at a party. Too much? Not at all. I'm flattered. I'm Marcus. Elena. What do you do? Repeat. Right. I need to know someone by the end of this evening. Example 109. I'm terrible at parties. Are you terrible at parties? The honest admission of social difficulty creates immediate connection with everyone who shares that experience, which is most people. Example exchange. I'm terrible at parties. Are you terrible at parties? Dreadful. Every time. And yet, here we are. And yet, shall we be terrible at it together? That would actually help. Repeat. I'm terrible at parties. Are you terrible at parties? Example 110. I think we've been introduced before and I've completely forgotten how. A warm recovery from partial recognition, more charming than pretending certainty or confessing total blankness. Example exchange. I think we've been introduced before and I've completely forgotten how. The Gordon dinner. I think. Last spring. Of course. I knew I recognized you. Elena. Sarah. Don't worry. I forgot your name too. Well, now we're equal. Repeat. I think we've been introduced before. Example 111. Tell me you've tried the wine. The imperative, tell me you've tried, is warm and slightly conspiratorial. It shares an experience rather than merely talking about it. Example exchange. Tell me you've tried the wine. Not yet. Good? Remarkable. Get some immediately. I mean it. Your certainty is convincing. It should be. I've had 2 glasses in 20 minutes. Repeat. Tell me you've tried the wine. Example 112. What's your connection to this crowd? A broader version of how do you know the host that opens up the social map of the gathering. Example exchange. What's your connection to this crowd? I come in through the music world, mostly. And you? Design, mainly. Though I seem to be connected to people who are connected to everyone. That's the most useful kind of connection. Repeat. What's your connection to this crowd? Example 113. I've been standing here for 20 minutes and you're the first person who has smiled at me. Thank you. A vulnerable and warm admission that names something real without complaint. The gratitude at the end makes it a compliment. Example exchange. I've been standing here for 20 minutes and you're the first person who has smiled at me. Thank you. That's a lovely thing to say, though also slightly heartbreaking. London parties. London parties. I'm Emma. Elena. Please don't leave. Repeat. You're the first person who has smiled at me. Thank you. Example 114. I almost didn't come tonight. Used to name the narrowness of the chance that brought you here. which creates the pleasant sense of fortunate coincidence. Example exchange. I almost didn't come tonight. What made you? A friend insisted. I'm glad they did now. That's a good friend, the best kind. What about you? I always say yes and then regret it until I arrive. Repeat. I almost didn't come tonight. Example 115. Can I introduce you to someone? I think you'd get on. The offer to connect two people is one of the most socially generous moves available at a party. It is also deeply useful for the person making the offer. It gives you a purpose and a route through the room. Example exchange. Can I introduce you to someone? I think you'd get on. Please. Who? She does exactly what you were just describing. She'd love to talk to you. Lead the way. Repeat. Can I introduce you to someone? Example 116. What are you hoping to get out of this evening? A slightly unusual question that moves the conversation immediately into intention and purpose, which is always more interesting than surface observation. Example exchange. What are you hoping to get out of this evening? Honestly, one good conversation. Just the one? One is enough. Two is a bonus. I'd like to be your one good conversation. You've made a strong start. Repeat. What are you hoping to get out of this evening? Example 117. You've been deep in conversation all evening. I was wondering when I'd get a turn. Used when you have been wanting to speak to someone who has been occupied elsewhere. Light, warm, and slightly flattering. Example exchange. You've been deep in conversation all evening. I was wondering when I'd get a turn. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was in such demand. Now you know. I'm Elena. Marcus. I'm glad you waited. Repeat. You've been deep in conversation all evening. Example 118. I find parties exhausting and also sometimes wonderful. This one seems like it might be the latter, a personal and honest observation that invites the other person to share their own relationship to social gatherings. Example exchange. I find parties exhausting and also sometimes wonderful. This one seems like it might be the latter. I know what you mean. The wonderful ones are rarer than they should be. What makes this one? Partly the company. That's kind. What else? Actually, I'm not sure yet. Let's find out. Repeat. I find parties exhausting and also sometimes wonderful. Example 119. I'm going to find somewhere to sit. Do you want to join me? The simplest possible social invitation. Sitting creates a context for a longer, more relaxed conversation than standing. Example exchange. I'm going to find somewhere to sit. Do you want to join me? I've been looking for an excuse. Let's go. There's a corner over there that looks promising. Corner seats at parties are always the best conversations. Repeat. I'm going to find somewhere to sit. Do you want to join me? Example 120. You're very easy to talk to. A genuine compliment that names something specific and valuable about the person. One of the nicest things you can say at a party. Example exchange. You're very easy to talk to. Thank you. I don't always feel that way. You should. So are you, by the way. Is that what we're doing? Telling each other we're easy to talk to? Apparently. Let's keep going. Repeat. You're very easy to talk to. Example 121. I feel like I should be introducing myself to more people, and yet here I am. the self-aware confession that you have found one person and are not moving. Said with warmth, it is a compliment to the person you are staying with. Example exchange. I feel like I should be introducing myself to more people, and yet here I am. Stay. You can meet more people anytime. You're right. Tell me more about what you were saying about your work. Repeat. I feel like I should be introducing myself to more people, and yet here I am. Example 122. Are you staying long? A practical question that doubles as a way of establishing how much time the conversation has. Example exchange. Are you staying long? Another hour, maybe. You? Similar. Good. I was worried we wouldn't have time to finish this properly. Then let's not waste it. Repeat. Are you staying long? Example 1, 2, 3. This is the kind of party that makes you forget you were tired. A shared positive observation that creates a sense of collective good fortune at being present. Example exchange. This is the kind of party that makes you forget you were tired. I came straight from a meeting and I felt dreadful. Now I feel fine. Same. Something about the room, or the company, or both. Repeat. This is the kind of party that makes you forget you were tired. Example 124. You've got one of those faces that suggests a really interesting story. A warm and unusual compliment that is also an invitation. Nobody has an ordinary face when you say this, which is the point. Example exchange. You've got one of those faces that suggests a really interesting story. Does it? What does it suggest? Patience, mostly, but also that things have not always been easy. You're observant. Tell me I'm wrong. I can't. Repeat. You've got one of those faces that suggests a really interesting story. Example 125. I'm glad we ended up talking. Said toward the end of a good party conversation. Simple, warm, and genuine. The kind of thing that makes people feel that the evening was worth coming to. Example exchange. I'm glad we ended up talking. So am I. This was not what I expected the evening to be. In the best possible way? In the best possible way. Let's exchange numbers before we lose each other. Repeat. I'm glad we ended up talking. 125 examples. 5 categories complete. The next 3 categories take you through the most important skills for the closing stages of small talk and its continuing after effects. Category 6. The graceful exit. Ending a conversation without causing offense. Knowing when and how to end a small talk conversation is as important as knowing how to begin one. Exit badly and you undermine everything good that went before. Exit well and you leave the other person with a positive impression that can last for years. Example 126. I should go and find the host and say hello. The most natural and inoffensive exit line available. Nobody can object to this because it is both polite and practically necessary. Example exchange. I should go and find the host and say hello. I haven't managed to get to her yet. Of course. It was really lovely talking to you. You too. I hope we get the chance to continue this properly. Repeat. I should go and find the host and say hello. Example 127. I'm going to let you get back to the people you came with. A considerate exit that acknowledges the other person has existing social obligations. It positions the departure as thoughtfulness rather than disinterest. Example exchange. I'm going to let you get back to the people you came with. I don't want to monopolize you. You weren't at all. This has been wonderful. It really has. Let me give you my card. Repeat. I'm going to let you get back to the people you came with. Example 128. I think I need to top up. Before I go, can I take your email? The natural social pause of going to get a drink used as the exit moment. The before I go signals departure. The email request ensures continuation. Example exchange. I think I need to top up. Before I go, can I take your email? I genuinely like to continue this. I was going to suggest the same. Here, call it or write to me. Both work. Repeat. I think I need to top up. Before I go, can I take your email? Example 129. I've really enjoyed this. I won't keep you. I know you had other people to catch up with. A warm exit that releases the other person without making them feel dismissed. Example exchange. I've really enjoyed this. I won't keep you. I know you had other people you wanted to catch up with. I wasn't in a hurry, honestly, but I appreciate it. This was a good conversation. The best of the evening for me. Repeat. I've really enjoyed this. I won't keep you. Example 130. I should circulate a bit. It was really good to meet you. Honest about the social obligation to meet others while being warm about the current exchange. Example exchange. I should circulate a bit. It was genuinely really good to meet you. And you. Don't be a stranger if we end up at the same thing again. I'll find you. Repeat. I should circulate a bit. It was really good to meet you. Example 131. Right. I'm going to find some food before it disappears. Before I do, shall we follow each other on LinkedIn? The practical exit, food, coffee, the bathroom, combined with the professional connector. Example exchange. I'm going to find some food before it all goes. Shall we connect on LinkedIn before I disappear? Yes. Let me find you. What's the company name? Repeat. I'm going to find some food before it disappears. Example 132. I could talk to you all evening, but I probably shouldn't monopolize you. A warm exit that compliments the other person while displaying social consideration. Example exchange. I could honestly talk to you all evening, but I probably shouldn't monopolize you. You're not monopolizing me, but I understand. Will you be at the next one? I hope so. Are you going? If you are, repeat. I could talk to you all evening, but I probably shouldn't monopolize you. Example 133. I have to make my excuses fairly soon, but before I go, this has been one of the highlights of the evening. Used when you are leaving the event entirely. The compliment at the end is genuine and memorable. Example exchange. I have to make my excuses fairly soon, but before I go, this has been genuinely one of the highlights of the evening. That's a lovely thing to say. Safe journey, and let's stay in touch. Let's. Repeat. I have to make my excuses fairly soon. Example 134. Actually, before we separate, I want to make sure we have a way of staying in contact. Used proactively when you do not want the conversation to end without a future connection secured. Example exchange. Before we go our separate ways, I want to make sure we have a way of staying in contact. This is not a conversation I want to lose. I feel the same. Phone or email? Both. Repeat. Before we separate, I want to make sure we have a way of staying in contact. Example 135. I'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening. It's been a real pleasure. Simple, warm, complete. Nothing unnecessary. Example exchange. I'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening. It's been a real pleasure. Likewise. Genuinely. Take care of yourself. You too. Safe home. Repeat. I'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening. It's been a real pleasure. Example 136. I can see you've spotted someone you need to talk to. Go. We'll catch up properly. Used when you notice the other person's attention drifting towards someone else. Releasing them gracefully is generous, and they will remember it. Example exchange. I can see you've spotted someone across the room. Go. It's fine. We'll catch up properly. Are you sure? Completely. Thank you for this conversation. It was brilliant. So were you. Don't vanish. Repeat. I can see you've spotted someone you need to talk to. Go. Example 137. I'll find you again before the end of the evening. A light promise to return. It signals that the conversation is not over, merely paused. Example exchange. I'm going to circulate for a bit. I'll find you again before the end of the evening. I'll be the one standing near the wine. Perfect landmark. Repeat. I'll find you again before the end of the evening. Example 138. Before I completely lose track of time, I should say goodnight. A warm and slightly self-deprecating exit that acknowledges how absorbed you have been in the conversation. Example exchange. I just checked the time and I cannot believe how long we've been talking. I should say goodnight before I completely lose track. I had the same thought 10 minutes ago. Let me walk out with you. Repeat. Before I completely lose track of time, I should say goodnight. Example 139. You've given me a lot to think about. A compliment to the substance of the conversation as you depart. More meaningful than nice to meet you because it is specific. Example exchange. You've given me a lot to think about. Have I? The thing you said about the industry, I'm going to sit with that for a while. Come back to me when you have. Repeat. You've given me a lot to think about. Example 140. It's been a real treat talking to someone who actually has something to say. A direct and specific compliment used as an exit line. Slightly bold, entirely warm. Example exchange. It's been a real treat talking to someone who actually has something to say. Now, I'm going to spend the rest of the evening wondering if that's true. It is. Here's my card. I mean it. Stay in touch. Repeat. It's been a real treat talking to someone who actually has something to say. Example 141. I think this might be the beginning of an interesting friendship. Used when you have had the kind of conversation that makes future connection feel inevitable and welcome. Example exchange. I think this might be the beginning of an interesting friendship. I think you're right. That's a strange thing to say to someone I met 40 minutes ago. 40 minutes well spent. The best. Repeat. I think this might be the beginning of an interesting friendship. Example 142. I hope we end up at the same thing again soon. A warm expression of a desire to see the person again without the pressure of making specific plans. Example exchange. I hope we end up at the same thing again soon. Or we could engineer it. Do you ever come to the Tuesday talks? I've been meaning to. Come next week. I will. Repeat. I hope we end up at the same thing again soon. Example 143. You've made this worth coming to. Said at the end of an evening that might otherwise have been just an obligation. One of the most personal compliments available. Example exchange. You've genuinely made this evening worth coming to. I nearly didn't, and I'm glad I did. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me tonight. Good. Remember me? Repeat. You've made this worth coming to. Example 144. Shall we go for a coffee properly sometime soon? The exit that becomes an invitation, moving small talk toward a real meeting. Example exchange. We keep scratching the surface of things I actually want to talk about. Shall we go for a proper coffee sometime? Yes. When? Are you free any day next week? Thursday works. Thursday it is. Repeat. Shall we go for a coffee properly sometime soon? Example 145. Safe home. 2 words. Warm, complete, and particularly classic in its simplicity. Example exchange. Safe home. And you? I'm glad tonight happened. So am I. Let's not leave it too long. Repeat. Safe home. Example 146. It was really good to have a proper conversation. That doesn't happen as often as it should. Names what made the conversation special while exiting gracefully. Example exchange. It was really good to have a proper conversation. It doesn't happen as often as it should at these things. No, but when it does, exactly. Take care. Repeat. It was really good to have a proper conversation. Example 147. Don't be a stranger. A classic English farewell that expresses the hope of future contact without the pressure of arrangement. Example exchange. Don't be a stranger. I won't be. And you? Come to the next one. I'll introduce you to some people you'll like. I'll hold you to that. Repeat. Don't be a stranger. Example 148. I'll look for you on LinkedIn. It was really good to meet you. A professional exit that creates a concrete next step. Example exchange. I'll look for you on LinkedIn. It was genuinely good to meet you. Likewise. First name, Elena? Yes. Find me and send a message. Say where we met. Will do. Take care. Repeat. I'll look for you on LinkedIn. It was really good to meet you. Example 149. Until next time. A confident farewell that assumes there will be a next time. The confidence itself is attractive. Example exchange. Until next time. There will be a next time. Good. I'm counting on it. Repeat. Until next time. Example 150. This has been one of those conversations I'll remember. the most personal and meaningful of all exit lines, reserved for the conversations that genuinely deserve it. Example exchange. This has been one of those conversations I'll genuinely remember. So will I. Good night. Good night. Repeat. This has been one of those conversations I'll remember. 150 examples. 6 categories complete. Let us finish with the 2 categories that determine whether small talk becomes something lasting. Category 7. The follow-up. What to say the next time you meet someone. The follow-up is where small talk proves its value. The conversation you had once becomes the foundation for something ongoing. These are the sentences that build on what came before and signal that you remember, that you were paying attention, and that the person mattered. Example 151. I've been thinking about what you said. The simplest and most powerful follow-up. It tells the person that they stayed with you. Example exchange. I've been thinking about what you said. About the industry. I think you were right. About which part? All of it, honestly. Where did that understanding come from? Repeat. I've been thinking about what you said. Example 152. How did it go? Used when you know the person had something significant happening. The memory of their situation is itself the message. Example exchange. How did it go? The interview? Yes. I remembered you mentioned it last week. Oh, that's really kind of you to remember. It went well, actually. I'm glad. Repeat. How did it go? Example 153. I took your advice. 3 words that tell someone their input was valued, heard, and acted on. Example exchange. I took your advice about the course. I signed up. Did you? How is it? Early days, but I'm glad I did. So thank you. That's made my week. Repeat. I took your advice. Example 154. I thought of you when I read this. Used when sharing a book, article, or piece of information that reminded you of a previous conversation. Example exchange. I thought of you when I read this article. I sent it to you this morning. I saw it. I've been saving it to read properly. What made you think of me? The section on how industries resist change. It was exactly what you were describing. Repeat. I thought of you when I read this. Example 155. You mentioned you were going through a difficult time. I just wanted to check in. The follow-up that shows genuine care for the person's well-being. Example exchange. You mentioned you were going through a difficult period. I just wanted to check in. That's very kind of you to remember. Of course. How are things? Better. Thank you for asking. Repeat. You mentioned you were going through a difficult time. I just wanted to check in. Example 156. I never got to finish what I was saying when we last spoke. A warm re-entry into a conversation that was interrupted or abbreviated. Example exchange. I never got to finish what I was saying about the project when we last spoke. Do you have a moment? I was wondering about that. Yes, please. Repeat. I never got to finish what I was saying when we last spoke. Example 157. How's the Japan trip planning coming along? Remembering a specific detail from a previous conversation. There is nothing more flattering than someone who remembered the details. Example exchange. How's the Japan trip planning coming along? You remembered. Of course. You were so excited about it. Everything is booked. I leave in 6 weeks. Tell me everything. Repeat. How's the Japan trip planning coming along? Example 158. It was good to see you last week. I wanted to follow up on something you said. Professional and warm. A clear signal that the previous conversation created something worth continuing. Example exchange. It was good to see you last week. I wanted to follow up on something you said about the market. I'm glad you did. I've been thinking about it more since. Perfect. Can we find 30 minutes? Repeat. It was good to see you last week. I wanted to follow up. Example 159. I mentioned you to someone who I think should meet you. A generous follow-up that says the person has stayed in your mind in a practical and useful way. Example exchange. I mentioned you to someone who I think should meet you. She's working on exactly the thing you described. Would you be open to an introduction? Absolutely. Who is she? Repeat. I mentioned you to someone who I think should meet you. Example 160. I never properly thanked you for the recommendation. A warm and specific follow-up that closes the loop on something shared. Example exchange. I never properly thanked you for the restaurant recommendation. It was exactly as good as you said. Was it? I'm so glad. We were there on Saturday and it was wonderful. Repeat. I never properly thanked you for the recommendation. Example 161. I wanted to tell you something that happened since we last spoke. An opener for sharing something that developed from a previous conversation. Example exchange. I wanted to tell you something that happened since we last spoke. I followed up on that idea we talked about. Did you? What happened? Something genuinely good. I want to tell you about it properly. Repeat. I wanted to tell you something that happened since we last spoke. Example 162. You've been on my mind since last time. A warm and personal way of saying that the person has occupied your thoughts since your last meeting. Example exchange. You've been on my mind since our conversation at the conference. Have I? What you said about starting over. I've been sitting with it. I'm glad it stayed with you. Did it help? More than I expected. Repeat. You've been on my mind since last time. Example 163. I wasn't sure whether to reach out, and I decided I should. The honest admission of hesitation makes the contact feel more meaningful, not less. Example exchange. I wasn't sure whether to reach out, but I decided I should. I've been thinking about the conversation we had at the event. I'm really glad you did. So am I now. Repeat. I wasn't sure whether to reach out, and I decided I should. Example 164. This might be a bit out of nowhere, but an honest signal before an unexpected contact. Names the potential awkwardness before it can become one. Example exchange. This might be a bit out of nowhere, but I was thinking about what you said about changing direction, and I wondered if you'd want to grab a coffee and talk it through. It's not out of nowhere at all. I was hoping you might reach out. Repeat. This might be a bit out of nowhere, but Example 165. We should do this properly sometime. A gentle, warm invitation to move from the brief and social into the more sustained and real. Example exchange. We should do this properly sometime. A proper lunch, not just 5 minutes at an event. I would love that. Are you free in the next few weeks? Let me check. Yes. Repeat. We should do this properly sometime. Example 166. I meant to stay in touch after the last time, and I'm sorry I didn't. An honest acknowledgement of a lapse before reestablishing contact. Example exchange. I meant to stay in touch after we last spoke, and I'm sorry I didn't. Life got in the way. I know exactly what you mean. It happens. How are you? Better for hearing from you. Repeat. I meant to stay in touch, and I'm sorry I didn't. Example 167. I read the article you sent. A specific and immediate follow-up that closes the loop on something shared. Example exchange. I read the article you sent, the section on institutional resistance, exactly what we were talking about. I thought you'd appreciate that part. I forwarded it to 3 people immediately. Good. Repeat. I read the article you sent. Example 168. How have you been since we last spoke? The simplest and most caring follow-up assumes that the other person has continued to have a life worth asking about. Example exchange. How have you been since we last spoke? Honestly, up and down, but more up than down lately. I'm glad to hear the lately part. So am I. What about you? Repeat. How have you been since we last spoke? Example 169. I feel like we left things mid-sentence last time. A warm and accurate description of a conversation cut short by circumstances. Example exchange. I feel like we left things mid-sentence at the conference last month. We did. Your lunch arrived at exactly the wrong moment. Shall we finish it now? Finally. Repeat. I feel like we left things mid-sentence last time. Example 170. I've been looking for an excuse to get in touch. The honest confession that you have been wanting to contact someone and finally have a reason. Example exchange. I've been looking for an excuse to get in touch. I thought of one. What's the excuse? I have a question only you would know the answer to. Now I'm curious. Ask. Repeat. I've been looking for an excuse to get in touch. Category 8. When small talk becomes something else. The final category. These are the sentences that mark the moment when small talk transforms into genuine conversation, when something shifts and both people feel it. These are the most important sentences in this entire masterclass because they are the ones that make small talk worth having at all. Example 171. I wasn't expecting to have a conversation like this tonight. The acknowledgement that something has shifted from the expected to the real. Example exchange. I wasn't expecting to have a conversation like this tonight. Neither was I. What were you expecting? Something much more surface level. Me too. Funny how that happens. When it happens. Repeat. I wasn't expecting to have a conversation like this tonight. Example 172. You're describing something I've never heard anyone say out loud before. Used when someone has articulated something that you have felt but never heard named. Example exchange. You're describing something I've never heard anyone say out loud before. Does it make sense? More than most things I've heard this year. Can you say more? Repeat. You're describing something I've never heard anyone say out loud before. Example 173. I feel like I can be honest with you. The moment when the quality of the conversation earns trust. This sentence names the shift. Example exchange. I feel like I can be honest with you. There's something I don't often say publicly. You can. I'm listening. The thing I find hardest about this work is... Repeat. I feel like I can be honest with you. Example 174. We've been talking for an hour, and I feel like we've barely started. Used when time has passed without notice. The reliable signal of a genuinely good conversation. Example exchange. We've been talking for an hour, and I feel like we've barely started. I noticed the same thing. Shall we find somewhere to sit properly? Yes, and some food, and more time. Repeat. We've been talking for an hour, and I feel like we've barely started. Example 175. I don't know why I'm telling you this. The sentence that marks the moment someone shares something more personal than they planned to. Always a sign that genuine connection has formed. Example exchange. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I don't usually say this to someone I've just met. You don't have to explain it. Go on. My father died 2 years ago, and I still talk to him sometimes. Repeat. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Example 176. That's not what I expected you to say. A warm response to something that has surprised you in a good way. Example exchange. That's not what I expected you to say. Is it wrong? Not at all. It's exactly right. I just hadn't thought of it that way. Sometimes you need someone outside it to name it. Repeat. That's not what I expected you to say. Example 177. I've been thinking about this for years, and you've described it better than I have. A generous and genuine compliment to someone whose articulation has clarified your own thinking. Example exchange. I've been thinking about this for years, and you've described it in 5 minutes better than I have in 5 years. That's because it's easier to see from outside. Still, thank you. Repeat. I've been thinking about this for years, and you've described it better than I have. Example 178. Can I ask you something fairly personal? The question that marks the shift from pleasantries to genuine inquiry. Example exchange. Can I ask you something fairly personal? You can. What do you actually want? Not professionally, just what do you want? Nobody has asked me that recently. Let me think. Repeat. Can I ask you something fairly personal? Example 179. This is the most interesting conversation I've had in a long time. A direct compliment to the quality of the conversation and the person contributing to it. Example exchange. This is the most interesting conversation I've had in a long time. That's a kind thing to say. I mean it. You think in a way that makes me think differently. So do you. What are you doing next week? Repeat. This is the most interesting conversation I've had in a long time. Example 180. I think we see the world quite similarly. The recognition of shared perspective is one of the most connecting things two people can discover. Example exchange. I think we see the world quite similarly. Do you? The way you described the project, it's how I think about mine. That's rare. Rare, but very good when it happens. Repeat. I think we see the world quite similarly. Example 181. You've changed the way I'm thinking about something. A genuine and meaningful acknowledgement of intellectual impact. Example exchange. You've actually changed the way I'm thinking about something. Have I? In a good way? In a necessary way? Which is better? What was it? The thing you said about failure being information rather than judgment. I needed to hear myself say that too, actually. Repeat. You've changed the way I'm thinking about something. Example 182. I feel like we're speaking the same language. Used when the shorthand between two people develops naturally and quickly. Example exchange. I feel like we're speaking the same language. I noticed that too. It doesn't usually happen this fast. No. What is it? I think it's that we're both trying to be honest. Yes, that's it exactly. Repeat. I feel like we're speaking the same language. Example 183. I want to hear everything you think about this. An expression of genuine intellectual appetite for someone's perspective. Example exchange. I want to hear everything you think about this. Don't summarize. Give me the whole thing. That might take a while. Good. I have nowhere to be. Repeat. I want to hear everything you think about this. Example 184. I think we're actually talking about the same thing from different directions. The realization that a conversation has been circling a shared truth from opposite angles. Example exchange. I think we're talking about the same thing from completely different directions. You think so? The problem you're describing in the market is the solution I'm describing in the organization. Yes, that's exactly right. How did we both miss that? Repeat. I think we're actually talking about the same thing from different directions. Example 185. You make me want to think more carefully. One of the most genuine compliments you can offer someone. Example exchange. You make me want to think more carefully, not just about this, about everything. That's the most encouraging thing anyone said to me in months. It's true. What made you the way you are? Repeat. You make me want to think more carefully. Example 186. I came here tonight not expecting much. I was wrong. A warm and honest statement about the gap between expectation and experience. Example exchange. I came tonight not expecting much. Honestly, I was wrong. About the evening? About the evening. about what might be possible in a conversation with a stranger. You've exceeded my expectations too. Repeat. I came here tonight not expecting much. I was wrong. Example 187. Something about what you said has opened up a question I didn't know I had. Used when someone has unlocked new thinking rather than simply answered existing questions. Example exchange. Something about what you said has opened up a question I didn't know I had. What's the question? Why I've been so careful not to want too much. That's a significant question. I know, and I have you to thank for it. Repeat. Something about what you said has opened up a question I didn't know I had. Example 188. I'm going to remember this conversation. Simple, genuine, specific, not nice to meet you. This. Example exchange. I'm going to remember this conversation. I already know I will. Good. It deserves to be remembered. So do you. Repeat. I'm going to remember this conversation. Example 189. I think this is the beginning of something. The most hopeful of all closing sentences. Confident, warm, and just specific enough to be meaningful. Example exchange. I think this is the beginning of something. Of what? I'm not sure yet, but something worth finding out. I agree with that. Good. Repeat. I think this is the beginning of something. Example 190. Thank you. That was exactly what I needed tonight. A genuine expression of gratitude for what the conversation gave you. Example exchange. Thank you. That conversation was exactly what I needed tonight, and I didn't know I needed it. I feel the same. Funny how that works. When it works. When it works. Repeat. Thank you. That was exactly what I needed tonight. Closing. 190 examples across 8 complete categories. And now I want to say something to you before you close this lesson. You came into this masterclass thinking perhaps that small talk was the easy part of English, the surface level stuff, the thing you would deal with once you had sorted out the important things. I hope you are leaving this lesson with a different understanding. Small talk is not small. It is the entire human project in miniature. 2 people, each carrying their whole complex interior lives, meeting in a social moment and using language to discover whether connection is possible, whether there is something shared, whether this stranger might, in time, become something more. The sentences you have learned today are the sentences that make that discovery possible. The openers that breach the silence. The weather observations that are never really about weather. The transitions that move from the surface to something real. The workplace moments that become the foundation of working friendships. The party courage that turns a room full of strangers into a room with one person you actually know. The exits that leave someone glad they met you. The follow-ups that say you were paying attention. And the moments when small talk stops being small at all and becomes the kind of conversation you carry with you for years. Here is what I want you to do. Choose the 10 sentences from today's lesson that felt most natural to you, the ones that sounded like you. Write them down. Say each one out loud 5 times, and then use at least 3 of them in a real social situation before this week ends. A coffee with a colleague, a party, a line, a waiting room, an elevator, the coffee machine. Wherever 2 people find themselves in the same space, and one of them has to say something first. Be the one who says something first. This channel publishes a brand new English lesson every single day. If today's masterclass gave you something real, something that will change how you walk into a room, please subscribe now and press the bell icon. And if this lesson helped you, please give it a like and share it with someone who finds social English difficult. This lesson was made for exactly that person. Before you go, please subscribe to English in Moments and press the bell icon so you never miss a new lesson. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for spending this time with me today. I'm Elena from English in Moments, and I will see you in the very next lesson.